Hello and welcome. We are Mike and Heather. We recently started a YouTube channel almost about a year ago in May of 2021. Since then, we have gotten a lot of questions about what we use as far as different subscriptions, whether it be our music, how we edit, how we create our thumbnails, and some other things that we do as beginners for our YouTube video.
It's actually a nice day. I think we're finally coming out of winter and getting into spring, so we're out in the van with the doors open. We've gotten a bunch of questions on how we make our YouTube videos, so we thought we would share a couple of the things that we do in order to produce the content that we do.
So if you're interested in starting a YouTube channel or just in general curious of what we use, today we're going to go through all of the different things that we use to create our van life channel.
I guess we can start where all YouTube videos sort of start, and that's filming something. We use a couple of different cameras to get the footage for our YouTube videos, and each one kind of does certain things. So we have a GoPro that we can use for action shots, being in the water, hiking, things like that. We have a little handheld vlogging camera that we like to use in crowds, and then we have the one that Heather's filming on now, which is kind of our main one and is more of an actual camera. We have an ultra wide angle lens for it. We have a lens that we can kind of zoom in and out with. So that one tends to be the one we use the most, but also the most expensive, so we try and not bring it into dangerous situations. If you're interested in learning more about the different cameras we use or some of the details of how we go about filming, because I always love talking about gear and camera equipment and things like that, and we've learned a lot throughout this whole process. So let us know if that's something you're interested in. But going from footage into editing seems like a good transition, so we'll switch back to Heather for that.
So before we can dive into the different websites and services that we use to edit our actual videos, we have to actually talk a little bit more about our gear.
Because we shoot in 4K, we end up using a ton of memory, so we actually don't store any of our footage files on our laptops because we found that that filled up almost instantaneously.
Yeah, we learned the hard way that we couldn't even get through one of our YouTube videos without us having lots of problems with our editing software because the memory on our computer was full. So thus, hard drives.
This is a 5 terabyte LaCie hard drive. It's an external hard drive that we keep all of our footage on, and then Heather actually edits off of this through the laptop. So the processing stuff isn't actually happening on the laptop, it's happening on this large memory drive.
So that brings us to editing, which, as Mike mentioned, our editing software is actually on our hard drive, so it's not on our computer. The editing software that we use is actually Final Cut Pro. Now, we did start all of our vlogs just using iMovie, which is the free software that comes with the Mac. However, once we got to Vermont, we were experimenting with our fancy camera that we don't know how to use and left the exposure on too long because we were trying to do star photography the night before and we forgot to switch it back. So basically all of our footage from Vermont was completely washed, so we were looking at different programs that we would actually be able to fix it. We weren't able to fix it completely, but Final Cut Pro had some extra features that would allow us to continue editing and try to fix that as best as we possibly could with the footage and try to salvage it as much. So we did end up downloading Final Cut Pro. Now, we haven't officially paid for it yet. We're still within that free month trial program, but it actually just ended, so we're actually gonna have to bite the bullet and buy it soon. But the best thing about the Final Cut Pro program is that it models itself off of the iMovie. So if you're learning off iMovie, it's a really nice, easy transition into like a more advanced software where you don't feel overwhelmed and like you need to learn something all over again. iMovie kind of makes editing dummy proof, so after you get comfortable with iMovie, you can easily transition into Final Cut Pro, which is what I have found. So for somebody like me who has absolutely no background in filming, editing, anything like that, I was able to pick up iMovie rather quick and be able to easily transition into Final Cut Pro. So that would be my suggestion to anybody who's wanting to kind of dabble within like the editing world, or honestly just play around with the software, because iMovie's free and Final Cut Pro's free for the first 3 months at least. The other good thing about it is that it's a one flat fee cost and it's not a subscription, so I don't have to pay it month by month by month like some other editing software. The next software that we use, we actually do pay a subscription, and that is for our music.
One of the things that we knew that we wanted when we were creating our YouTube videos was to have some kind of music going in the background. We like the vibe that it adds and feel like it kind of heightens the video and helps kind of convey a certain feeling. When we were looking for a way to do that, we found 2 different platforms and subscription services that let you get music license so that you can put them in your YouTube videos without worrying about copyright infringement or anything like that. Those 2 are Musicbed and Epidemic Sound. We kind of looked at the samplings of each of them and found that we liked the vibe better from Musicbed, and so we went with them. It's a $9.99 a month subscription, subscription, and it allows us to take songs from this website created by real artists and our actual songs and put them into our videos without having to worry about royalties or anything like that. Because our videos are monetized, we're not penalized and we don't have to worry about getting demonetized because we're putting these songs in. Even though we use Musicbed, I haven't heard anything bad about Epidemic sound, and it's actually something we might consider in the future as well, because I know a lot of content creators use both. If they can't find something that they like specifically on one platform, they'll go to the other. So that's something that we may be interested in the future, but for now, Musicbed definitely does the job. On the site itself, it has a really great selection of music, and it allows you to search for songs depending on how fast you want the beats per minute, the type of vibe or energy that it gives off, as well as lyrics or just instrumentals. So it's been really good to be able to watch a section of the video, think about what type of music we would like in there, and then sort of search for it on Musicbed and get the songs and put them in. And we've had a number of people ask about the music in our videos, so we figured this is something that has been really great for us and thought we would share.
It also makes us look more legit, even though we have absolutely no idea what we're doing. If you put a pretty song behind it, people think that we're something that we're not. More, I don't know,
good at what we do than we actually are.
Yeah, something like that. But oftentimes I'll be working on editing and I'll say, hey Mike, log on to Musicbed, find some upbeat music or find some slower music. So he'll actually be able to go in and favorite all the ones for me to be able to come back to. So it is actually very helpful, and I think it did level up our videos, or at least makes it look like we're more leveled up, because you throw that song behind it and it makes us look like we're YouTubers.
Another thing that we've learned to be super important when we are making YouTube videos is the thumbnail. That's definitely something that we weren't maybe aware of, because when you're watching videos, you see it and you click on it, but we didn't realize just how important it is, especially when you start to consider the analytics and things like that. So finding a way to make high quality thumbnails was something that we knew we needed to do.
And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on thumbnails or any of the things that we're talking about by any means, but in our beginner YouTube journey, as we're researching all of this for ourselves, we found a website that we still use now that is totally free called Canva. So with that, you can actually go and create a bunch of social media art, whether it be banners for your YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, or YouTube thumbnails, flyers, business cards, anything you could possibly think of for a social media or just your business in general. It's all free to do on there. Now, of course, they do have upgraded levels where you get more and more like free clip art if you pay the subscription price, but for what we're using, it's perfect. It's really user friendly. There's not a very large learning curve to it. It's all kind of click and drag. For us who have no real digital art background, it's definitely very beginner friendly.
And we did actually take time as we were researching different options to look at some of the paid subscriptions for photo editing and things like that. While I think some of those work, I don't think that any of them, for us at least, worked better than what Canva offered for free. So because of the easy to use nature of it, the fact that it has just the right amount of kind of features and options for what we're looking to do, we didn't need to pay for Photoshop or any of those other kind of editing software programs to put on the computer that you have to pay for on a continuing basis. So this was such a cool thing to find, and we really have used it for every thumbnail that we've made.
Now, the thing that we do need to get better at is just remembering to take thumbnail pictures in the moment and stop trying to like freeze frame it after the video. Yeah, we still have a lot of work to do, but at least the software, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just us needing to up our game as far as the thumbnails goes for ourselves, and just remembering to take those thumbnail photos.
Going from that to maybe what's been our last sort of subscription that we use when working on things associated with our YouTube channel is Squarespace. So it's something, if you've watched YouTube videos, you've probably seen an ad for, or if you watch vloggers, someone is sponsored by them. We're not, but the platform for creating a website through Squarespace is actually pretty user-friendly. It takes a little bit to get to the hang of things, but once you do, you can start to make a website for whatever you want it to be for without too much difficulty. So that's been nice. So we're sort of in the process of finalizing all of the different touches on our website, but we figured we would put a blog there, a little bit more about us, and it would give us a chance to kind of expand on some of the things that we may talk about in our videos or respond to the types of questions that we get in our comments.
We do get a lot of great comments in our videos that we feel like we can't really do justice. So the thought is behind it is having a blog. So if we do keep getting the same questions over and over again, we want to be able to help in any way that we can for anybody else who wants to take on this crazy journey, whether it be van life or YouTube. So we're going to try to like make blogs about commonly asked questions and just try to help in any way that we can.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. We have a couple of blogs. It's weird saying blogs versus vlogs because that's what we've been doing for so long. But I think we'll have a couple of vlogs posted on that when it launches, as well as some additional information about us. You probably know all of it if you've been watching our videos, but we'll hopefully have that up. And additionally, we have the handle for an Instagram. We just haven't started using that. So that's the other thing that we're going to be trying to do better with in the future as we travel a little bit more.
Yeah. So we definitely said that those were our goals for 2022 to have them. And to be honest, we've had them for a while. We just haven't like pulled the trigger and making them live because we're a little bit intimidated by it. So YouTube was a huge learning curve that we had to like pick up. So now we feel at least a little bit more comfortable with YouTube, enough to take on a website and the Instagram to kind of have the trifecta of what it takes to be a content creator to do this. So yeah, we're very much still learning. And again, we're not pretending to be an expert in anything. This is just what the type of websites and subscriptions that we have found useful for us as new YouTubers. We're not sponsored by any of them. I mean, if they would like to, that'd be great. But these are just our honest reviews of the services and what we do use in order to create what you see.
Yeah, so we hope that this helps if you're interested in making a YouTube channel.
Or just curious about what we do to make ours.
So we'll include links for the different things that we've talked about in the description for this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We'll try and get back to you. If there's anything that you want to know more about from this video or things that we've talked about in the past, let us know if you'd like to see a blog about it, and we'll try and go even more in depth on a breakdown. Or if there's something that you want to see a video about, let us know, because we're always looking for good ideas for making content for you all.
Yeah, and we have a lot of fun doing it. We have a lot of fun doing our YouTube, and we're hoping to have just as much fun doing our website and our Instagram.
It's tough because we don't feel like we are big social media people. So obviously that sounds kind of funny because we have a YouTube channel, but I think we have almost like all of the different social media platforms. We have accounts with them, but we don't post on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. We kind of lurk on them. So the idea of using Instagram and actually maintaining an Instagram page is a little bit intimidating because we don't really know what to do with it. So we'll
learn.
Yeah, in the coming weeks, we'll definitely try and be a little bit more active with that.
There's somebody definitely commenting, okay, boomer, underneath our comments right now.
Coming up, we're excited to dive into a little bit more of the work we've been doing on Appa, both in trying to tackle some of the things that we realized we didn't love, as well as doing some upgrades and cleanup and stuff like that.
Yeah, so nothing to do with like the mechanics of our van. It's running perfectly fine. If you watched our last video,
knock on wood, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we broke down in Ohio, but it was a quick fix, a relatively inexpensive fix. So it has nothing to do with the mechanics of our van, just some general upgrades that we want to do to the interior as well as the exterior. So very excited to do that. And now that it's warmer, we can definitely start tackling that. And that's what we're going to be doing in the next video. So see you then.